Welcome back to Dear Glory. If this is your first time here, I'm Moriah Alise. What we're listening to today, is a conversation from GloryLand, a weekend that brought hundreds of artists, collectors, and cultural lovers, art lovers, together in Houston to connect, to learn, and to be inspired and reminded that art still has the power to shape us. People came from across the country, Dallas and Chicago, Los Angeles, Atlanta, DC, and the energy was unforgettable. The conversation that you all are about to hear was one of the most powerful moments of the weekend. This conversation was titled and guided by the thought, art is power, and asking the question, are you using yours? It's a reflection of legacy and voice and what it really means to create from a place of truth. So I want you to settle in. I want you to grab your Glory notebook and something to sip on, and let's step into GloryLand. Dr. Joy Simmons, I think we all know you, girl. I think we all know you. I think we know your collection. I think we've seen the articles. You have been honored time and time again for your collection. And you started your journey with artists, and you grew with them, and they grew with you throughout your collection. And Dr. Joy Simmons has been collecting for... Okay, we're not gonna do it.
Most of these people have been alive. We'll let that go.
She comes with a wealth of experience, and if you've ever had the chance to see her home through interviews or articles, she lives. It surrounds her in the most beautiful way. So I want to encourage that. We thank you for being here, Amarie. If you live in Houston, you probably have heard of the Reading Room. And so when I met Amarie, she was a DJ. She probably don't want people to know that if you don't. She actually DJ'd my wedding. I had to beg her to do it, but she did it. I remember a conversation we had very slightly. You wanted to be a librarian. You were like, I want to be a librarian. I love DJing, but I want to be surrounded by the knowledge of Black artists. I want to be around books. And here comes the Reading Room, where she has such a large selection of books for you to just walk into, because it's a library, and read and figure out what you want to learn. I swear it's there. She has almost every artist, Black artist that I can think of, for you to go through the archives and learn and read. And she's opening that up to the public and activating at different spaces. She just activated at Rice University. And I believe that's gonna go so much further. And so I wanna thank you for the power that you've given. And Miss Evita, 409, baby. We're from the same area. When I first discovered Evita's work, it reminded me so much of my family. And if you've seen her work, you probably have seen it on the screen actually. If you've seen her work, you know how rooted it is in storytelling and how layered it is. And she's a Guggenheim Fellow. I'm not skipping over that, because that's one of the most prestigious awards that you can receive. And I want to thank you for being here and for all, and just congratulate you on all the success that you have had. She had an article in the New York Times last week. I'm like, is she still gonna come to the top? I don't know. But I want to get started. So, I didn't even introduce myself. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Moriah Alise. I'm a curator and an advisor, and I'm also the founder of Alise Art Group, where I manage artists like Lamont French, who is sitting in the audience. But from that came Dear Glory, which is my YouTube platform, and that platform is built on accessibility and creating access points for artists, collectors, and art lovers who sick of that jargon because we don't need it. We don't need it. It's we don't need it. We could speak to each other. We can meet one another without a certain level of prestige. I feel that we are prestigious people, though. I think that we all are in this room. But we don't have to have that language. We don't have to talk over each other. You know what I mean? And so that channel is to spotlight and highlight people of color, typically and usually, and create access points for us to discover, for us to understand market insights, as well as for us to have conversations. So I want to encourage you to please check out that YouTube channel. From that came GloryLand. We can live in the digital space all day, but there's space for us to be in the physical. And so that's why we created this, and that's why we're going to go into this conversation. So my first question is for Dr. Joy Simmons. As a renowned collector, based in Los Angeles, I don't think we said that. Based in Los Angeles, you have spent decades, collecting. And I want to ask you, when did you first realize collecting wasn't just passion for you, but it was a way for you to express yourself?
When I started collecting many years ago, I was 21 when I bought my first Elizabeth Catlett, and it was not about collecting per se. When I was in college, I went to New York for the first time, and I was able to see art by Black people in a home. And I knew that's what I wanted my home to feel like. And so it was not about collecting. It was about, how do I work with people who have the capacity to tell these kinds of stories that I, as a physician, can't tell. And they can create things that I can't do, but together we can create a dialogue that expresses what they're trying to say and what I'm trying to say in my home. Mm-hmm. So that's how I began. So it's not like today is a very much more loaded term to be a collector. I was acquiring the work, supporting the artists. That's what I was doing. So it wasn't until I really started to think about how I wanted, or what I wanted my collection to say. Yeah. When I was in medical school, a lot of the older residents, and we were all starting to collect at the same time in the early 80s. And we were all collecting prints. But then I realized that we were collecting the same Bearden, those prints. And I said, well, I don't want my home to look like their home. Mm. And so that's when I decided to more purposefully focus on younger artists and work that I could collect that were unique. It took me a long time to collect photographs because of that, because I wanted my house to be my house. And someone else's. So once I decided that this is what I wanted to say, and this is how I wanted my home to feel, and the type of that I wanted my children to grow up in, then that's when I started to focus and I guess become a collector, because I knew what it was I was trying to say and the narrative that I was trying to put out there for me and my family.
You said that the word collector is loaded. Could you expand on that for us and kind of give us a perspective of what goes into actually being a collector for you, and then what is perceived from others?
Okay, so when I was coming up, I guess, I think collector was a much more, I don't want to say elitist, but it was a lot there was a lot more weight to understanding what you were doing, not just purchasing art. There's more to it than that. And I guess when I think about and thought about what it is like to be a collector, it is understanding that there's an intention and a direction and a narrative. And that's how I see it. And not to be elitist about it, but I think being able to acquire or purchase a couple of pieces, that's not a collector. Someone who really sits up there and really thinks about what they're doing, how they're saying it, who they're collecting, how they're supporting, the interactions that they have. That, to me, and that's a very personal thing, is what a collector is.
And Miss Evita, when did you realize that your work wasn't just personal, and that when it goes into the world, it starts to belong to others?
From inception, I knew that I feel that I came to this world to be an art evangelist, to speak joy, to speak truth. And that's what I do in my work. So from the beginning of when I started doing artwork as a child, I knew that I was put here for a purpose. Yes. So it's at the beginning.
Yeah. And when you started realizing how people were receiving your work, is that a moment where you understood that your work had power?
I just recently realized that my work has power. Just recently, because I've done shows, and when people walk into the room where my work is, they start to smile or they start to weep. And I said, just by them seeing a two-dimensional piece, they are put in an emotion. It evokes emotion. And I said, that's powerful. And I didn't realize that until recently, on how art evokes emotion and how my work evoked emotion. Yeah.
And Amarie, you kind of sit at the intersection of this, right? Like, you collect books, and then you allow the public to interact with these books. When did you realize that your book collection didn't need to just belong to you, that it needed to belong into the world?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
There's so much synergy between us, and there always has been, because I think so much of your work is thinking about access and legibility, specifically with Dear Glory. My background is in art history. I minored in sociology. I worked in American art institutions from MFAH, moved to Chicago, moved to New York, and sort of got to see and develop my vocabulary, I think. But so much of the power that I found and enjoyed in art and working with artists and learning from artists wasn't reaching the people that the work was, I guess, intended to reach. There was always a barrier. And the books for me were educational tools. I couldn't afford to collect art when I was younger. I mean, I'm still young, I suppose, but like, I didn't have the money to do it, right? And so if I couldn't buy the print, I would get the book. If I can't get the book, I get the postcard. I would always like to leave with something every time I go somewhere. And so I spent 7 years away from Houston, working, learning, figuring it out. I moved back in 2021. And after the pandemic, I think I got here as an adult for the first time, and I was a little afraid. And so my response to that fear was try to find a way to be useful to my city. And I had built this collection of books, and it wasn't clear immediately. In 2021, it wasn't clear what it actually was going to be. But I'm not a commerce girl, so I knew I didn't want to start a bookstore. The library was always the place where I felt independent, where I felt seen. My grandpa would drop me off and stay in the parking lot. I mean, he would still be there, but he would take me to the library because I was getting on his nerves at home, and he'd let me run around and roam. And so that was, I think, the spark of my curiosity as a child. And I wanted to create a space that felt more inviting than a typical public library, but also be social, because my work thinks about people. And And so I wanted the feeling that I got from walking into a museum without the behavioral expectation. I wanted to be able to give that to other folks, and fill in these knowledge gaps and make reading feel cooler or look cooler, so that we can actually do it, so that we can actually use our minds and think critically, because we're missing that. And so it took a couple years. I had a couple side quests. I was a DJ. You met me when I was a DJ. I used all of that money to build the collection out. I started a website that had 325 of the books that were in the collection at the time, scanned the front and back covers just as a reference point. If you're looking for a gift for somebody, one of your artsy friends, you can go online, look it up. You might find something. And then that translated into real life with the pop-ups. And the first pop-up that we did was a 2-day experience. And I remember having a conversation with somebody who came in and said, I didn't even know this many books on Black art existed. That was the moment. That's when I realized, like, I'm a vessel through which this work needs to happen. It started with my personal collection. I bought my first art book when I was 18 years old. Randomly wandering into the CAM, everything came full circle. And now the collection is almost 800 texts that'll continue to grow. We have programs that bring people into the space so that we can learn together, collective reading, collective sharing, so that that power isn't relegated only to paying admission to go into a museum or walking into a gallery and being made to feel uncomfortable because you're not a prospective buyer, right?
I think that's such a good point. And you guys y'all sit at different sections of the ecosystem, right? Like, we have a collector, not even in institutions anymore, like more so independent, and an artist. And that means all of y'all have a different interaction with the art world. You all have everyone approaches you different. They approach you different, you different, and you different. But we sit in conversation together. So I want to ask you, Dr. Joy, you started collecting when you were 21. My first question to you is, did you do that with the help of an advisor? Did you do it alone? What did that look like?
I've never had an advisor,
Okay.
but my aunt lived in New York. My uncle still lived there. She was the collector. She had a collection with Mel Edwards and William T. Williams and Hardina Pendel. When I saw that home, I wanted my home to feel like that. And but her collection with those guys in New York. My art teacher at Crenshaw in Los Angeles was the co-owner of Brockman Gallery in Los Angeles, was one of the first Black-owned galleries there, and that became a hub. So I just intuitively, I'm a radiologist by training, so I am used to looking at things. I am figuring out why someone has pain or if they have cancer, whatever, because I look at CT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds all day long. That's what I do, so I'm a very visual person. So for me, it was just a matter of going to galleries, going to artist studios, meeting people, and just working my way through it. I've never had an advisor. My daughter is a curator, but her taste and my taste are just similar, but she looks at it from a very different lens than I do. And, we'll talk about different people and stuff, but as far as what I collect, that's my collection. And
how has your experience been just throughout your journey? To piggyback off of what Amarie said, going into galleries and experiencing what could feel like a wall sometimes when you walk into them. How has your experience been throughout time?
When I began, most Black artists, you're talking about, this is 1974. At that time, most Black artists on the West Coast did not have gallery representation by other people. Okay? They were at Black galleries. And so therefore, it was comfortable. You didn't feel this whole thing. There was Brockwood Gallery, Gallery Tanner. But those are the spaces that I guess, got my feeling into. And so it wasn't until as people started to move on up, I remember uh, trying to acquire an Alison Sarr piece. And this is like 1981-ish. And yeah, because I was already in practice. Anyway, this gallerist, it was a white gallery, kind of like poo-pooed me, even though I kept coming back. I said, so finally Allison said, look, Joy, the crate is getting to the gallery today. Get there. And so I took off at lunchtime, got to the gallery. I'm in this woman's face. I'm like, no, this is my piece. Like, make it happen. And so then she was like, okay, you're good. So I was able, that was, I think, the first time I purchased a piece at a white gallery. And so now, as more artists of color are being shown in other spaces, I just roll up in there. I mean, I think.
I think you got a name now, girl.
I guess because a lot of times I just survey. I mean, I don't want anybody to come up to me and say this. So, so if they don't say anything to me, I'm good because I can then look around, see what I want, and then make my other connections if I have to be able to get the work that I want. I don't have to try to go through this dance with people. Now, I'm always surprised when artists say, no, Joy, they knew you were in there. They saw you and they knew not to say, don't bother him. And I always go early. I always knock it out and just keep it pushing. And I work my way to get to the piece that I want to have because it's very instinctive for me. I know what that piece is. I know.
Yeah. Can we agree that took time?
Oh, it did take time. I mean, again, for a long time, the artists that I was interested in weren't even in white galleries. So there was no way, there was not that intimidation thing. Yeah. And even then, it was Brockman Gallery that started us learning how to go to artist studios. I mean, that's, John Outerbridge, Lamont Westmoreland, all those older guys. That's how I got to their studios and then learned how to ask the questions and what goes on and this and that. And, I mean, David Hammonds was leaving LA and wanted to sell work. I'm like, I was right there. And so it was very easy, but it did take time to now go to these galleries. I mean, you can go to these, galleries that have, spots like all over the world. And those you kind of say, when the work starts getting to the six figures and stuff, it's like, I'll just slide in here because I'm not going to buy anything. But again, I think for me, it's less of an intimidation thing because I really still focus on younger artists. That's always been my focus of my collecting, be it, like I said, Mark Bradford in 92, Carrie James Marshall in 92, Micheline Thomas, 2005. Those were in their very young career. So you didn't have the barrier, if you will. And I still, Lauren Halsey, all those guys I collected before they got to the bigger galleries, because for me, that's the exciting part of collecting. It's not once someone has deemed them important. Yeah. Then the price go up, but that's not the fun part. The fun part is trying to discover new talent and understanding who has the story, what's the narrative, what's their technique, are they good at what they do? Can they paint? I mean, some people can whatever, but they can't paint. But you can find, but when you find someone who can paint but doesn't have really a good story, doesn't have good ideas, he's like, percolate a little longer. But I mean,
percolate.
Sorry. But it is just,
I feel like I really wanted to just kind of lean in and just take that in, but I'm like, okay, we're not in my living room. So
I tend to get a little
I think that's such a great lesson to focus on emerging artists and grow with them. And if you are, and even from what you said, you started with Prince. There is a place to start. And I think that's one of the most important things we can learn. Now, Miss Evita, you have a story and many stories to tell. Your journey, I don't know if you guys know much. I'm going to let you tell your own story. But if you could kind of take us through your journey quickly to how you have gotten to this space of where you are right now, which is such an amazing. You are like, you were just at Armory, you're at Untitled. You just told me you're going somewhere else. I don't even think we could say. I mean, you're all over the place right now, and you have had some wonderful, wonderful, well known people add your work to their collection. So, if you could give us point A, point B, and then where we are right now, guide us through your journey.
So it started with it started with a black van in Dallas, Texas, and Frank Frazier. I don't know if anybody knows Frank Frazier, but Frank Frazier is an OG. And I used to travel with him in his black van across the country. He used to load up artists and take us across the country, and we used to stop at different galleries, pull out the work, and show them the work. I started back in the 90s with him. And it was hard because I was sometimes the only female, and he is honorary as I'll get out. But he's still close to my heart. That's where it started. And that him taking me to those places and also being introduced to this wonderful lady that's sitting in the audience, Dr. Sharon. She gave me a show in her home when I was painting Impressionism, because that's where I started. I started painting Impressionism, and then people were saying that my work was derivative. And I'm a praying woman, and I said, I always knew that I wanted to be an artist. Always knew. I came out of the womb saying I want to be an artist. So I prayed. I got a dream. I had a dream that an angel came to my door and gave me a blueprint of sketches, a blueprint of how to do a new style. And after I executed what I saw in the book, the next following year, I was commissioned to do 2 national jazz posters, one for Essence and one for the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage. That was in 1999. And then it was a slow trajectory up that I started showing in a gallery in Hagerstown picked me up. I was with them for 20 years. And Limbo, the internet happened. Instagram happened.
Yes.
I started showing on Instagram. I got an account, and then I met this wonderful man that's sitting in the audience, Henry Minor, and we teamed up. And I said, I want to be in major cities. So he pointed my work. We got ads in major cities. And the gallery in Los Angeles that I am with now found me in 2019. So this is fresh. This still is fresh. 2019, they found me. They sent me an email and said, I saw your work on Instagram. We would like 4 to 5 pieces. My advisor, Samitra Goodson, who is also my attorney, we sat down prior to this and wrote out a plan that I wanted to be in major galleries. I wanted to work on canvases. I was working on paper. And then I say maybe a couple of months later, they contacted me. Write a vision, make it plain. That's what I did. So when they contacted me, I contacted her, and she said, well, I'm going to do diligence on them. Lo and behold, they have a great gallery. They told me to do 4 pieces. I did 14. They looked at my work, and they said, oh, we wanted you in our small space, but this was during COVID. So they said, we want to do a solo show for you. They did not do a studio visit. This was all virtual. 3 weeks after I did the work, they picked it up. They called me and they said, we want to tell you that the work that you sent us is 75% sold. So it wasn't even hung yet. So you want a gallery that will work for you, will advocate for you. Yes. So they did a closing. The day of the closing, the last 3 pieces sold. It was a sold-out show. I never showed in LA before. Since then, we've had maybe 4 to 5 sold-out shows. Because of them, they pushed me to apply for the Guggenheim. I was received the Guggenheim in 2023, and I am in 6 museum collections as of yesterday. And I can't say who it is yet, but yeah. Yeah.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, but I'm in the Perez,
Yeah.
I'm in Dallas, I'm in Houston collections, Houston Fine Arts. So it's been like it's been a roller coaster ride. I mean, it has been like rocket ship because this all happened in the last 5 years. But I tell young artists to be determined, don't give up. If you believe in your work, do whatever it happened. I had to work as a chef for 15 years and do my artwork. And I'm not ashamed to say that I had to work another job because I believed in myself. I knew it was going to happen, and I was determined to make it happen.
That's amazing. I mean, you tell a good story. Now I thought she was gonna start telling y'all the Samuel L. Jackson collection. She didn't go into it. She didn't go into it.
I can tell that story.
We'll come back. We'll come back. We're gonna leave him on a hanger a little bit. Now I want to switch to something a little bit more controversial. Uh-oh. We're gonna start with you, Amarie. I want to just talk about and explore ways that institutions, our galleries, or just institutional spaces could actually try to strip your power.
The first thing that comes to mind is they make you feel like you need them when their very survival depends on you. That's it. From the patrons that go into the doors, from the artists whose work they put on display, it's all about people first, right? That's number one. That's what's coming to mind.
Dr. Joy. Same question.
I think institutions,
Our galleries.
and that is kind of an institution as well.
Right.
As Amar said, I think artists have to understand that, yes, you have the product, if you will. And so that is the most important thing. I think too often, as Evita just described, the internet changed the game. When I was coming up as a young person trying to acquire art, you had to either have the friends who knew, or if you were going to a gallery, a really significant gallery, then you had to go through the LA Times and look on the weekends and see what name sounded black. And then you would go see that show because there weren't that many spaces for it to happen. But once Instagram and the whole social media thing, that changed the game. Now you can sit up here in an hour and you can see 200 people and see their work and go through and figure it all out. So you have the opportunity to work around institutions, if you will, to be able to get your work out there. I think, however, if you are have the aspiration to be in institutions like museums, then I don't think that's very easy to do outside of a gallery backing.
Right.
I'm on the acquisition committee for 2 museums currently, and have done it in the past and others. And again, I think having the gallery either push you to get the Guggenheim, okay? Like you just don't roll up there and say, I'm gonna do this. No, the gallery has to support you in making that happen. And so that's how you understand what the gallery is supposed to do for you, okay? It's not just to sell your work. It is also to help you in shape your career, help you figure out how to get into the institutions, support you as you try to grow as an artist. Because, as an artist, you may start out painting but then you want to explore, look at Titus Kaphar just did a film. You know, it's his gallery also helped him to be able to make those connections, to be able to do that. That's what your gallery is supposed to do when you start giving them 50% of your labor, if you will. So, if we're going to get controversial, let's take it there.
Well, I mean, I think that's amazing. I love y'all for it.
Can I say
yeah.
something?
Oh, please.
Yeah. You have to have a gallery that really will support you. I remember when I first started out, and I'm not going to mention the name of the gallery, but they told me my work belonged on greeting cards. It was going back to the fine arts show that used to be on Houston Street in New York. You remember that one? There was a gallery that was in Dallas, and they were a white gallery. And I went to them and I said, would you look at my work? They said, your work looks like it belongs on greeting cards. We're not interested. And full circle, I had an exhibit. They came up to me and they said, would you be interested? I said, no, I'm sorry. I am very satisfied.
Yes.
But it was full circle 25 years later.
Yeah.
But they treated me like I was a throwaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it sounds like to me is you got to know your own power. And then you also have to understand the role of everyone else and don't let them switch and turn. And also what I hear is understanding that you are in partnership with these people, with institutions, with gallery. And I believe partnership is the most important word, because what you can find from institutions and galleries, and I'm not speaking negatively on them because they're a part of this ecosystem in a very integral way. And we need them, I do believe, and I think they need, the ecosystem needs each other, right? And what's important to know is the role of everyone, how we play in our roles, and how we interact and allow our power to be used in the most proper way. If a gallery's giving you, if you give a gallery 50%, they got to advocate for you. That's a lot. 50% is a lot. That is a lot, Lamont. And anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate y'all for that. I just had to go, had to get a little sticky icky for a moment. But I do want to ask Dr. Joy, how could you encourage collectors to not just collect work, collect art, but to be a vessel in shaping culture?
I think this is a very tricky time.
Yes.
Frankly. When one acquires work and cares for the work of an artist, you have the opportunity to enjoy that work, but you have a responsibility to share that work and to also be part of the growth of that artist, be it through hosting things in your home, when the work is being asked to go to museum shows, you loan the work, you share, because you have to bring it to a broader audience to be able to allow this artist to grow.
Yes.
That's your responsibility. You also, if there is the capacity, as I say in the development world, to participate in the local museums and other art spaces. One of the things that's also happening as Black artists are growing and coming up is now the academic part of things. Art historians are now, and curators are now telling the stories of our culture and our work. And so supporting those curators in these institutions is really important. So not only then are you, when they ask you to borrow the piece of work, you also have the opportunity to get on the committees of these different institutions, being a member of these institutions. Then you work your way up to getting on those committees. Then you work your way up and say, how can I be on the board of these institutions? and really help with the leadership of these institutions. And we're in a very challenging time and place where we really have to be intentional and fight to be able to preserve our culture that there is an intention of trying to erase us. And so it is very important when you have the capacity to get in these spaces. There are dues. These institutions need financial support, and their board, our boards, need that support. So that's what they're going to ask of you to participate at that level. So you then have to say, I'm going to make the sacrifice, a commitment to do this so that I can have a voice at that table. And therefore advocate for these curators who are then advocating for their artists to be in these institutions. And so that's how you kind of work your way into using your power as a collector to advocate at a broader level to ensure that the work of our Black and brown artists are shown in a broader audience so the world can see it.
Thank you. And Amarie, how do you use your voice to speak up in rooms that weren't necessarily designed for people that look like you and me?
I think so much of my writing practice has been about advocacy. The thing that I learned in institutions, particularly in collecting institutions, is that if there aren't people who can advocate for the work to come out of storage, the stories will never get told. And so Dr. Simmons is making an incredible point about the sort of chain of command, right? Curators are kind of competing for real estate in the museum, right? Which is why exhibitions take 2 to 3 years to plan, because there's so many different departments that have to take the gallery space. If there's not a curator who's interested in bringing these stories forward, these really powerful, beautiful works that the institutions are collecting, to put them in front of audiences, then they'll live in storage forever and that power will be contained. But what does it mean to go directly to the artist, speak to them, publish something, sit in conversation, record, talk to the curator, find ways around this lack of space, right? Or the competition in the museum, or the hierarchy and the bureaucracy of the galleries, the politics that you have to play to get your work in front of an audience. Because otherwise, what is all this for? If not to transform the lives of the people that we live amongst every single day.
Right.
What are these stories for? What are they supposed to do?
Right.
What is all this for?
Right.
Right? And so I think my focus and my intention has always been about access and legibility and making clear the power that is within each individual artist's story, making connections about our real lives. I'm a person that writes about art. I'm not an art writer, so it's not super prescriptive. There are cultural moments and cultural histories, political histories that inform every single thing that we see and engage with on a daily basis. And so my job, I think, as an independent librarian, as a writer, as an editor, is to find a way to amplify those stories, no matter what, by any means.
Thank you. And Ms. Evita, how do you protect your story? I think we hear it from the other side, right? As an artist, how are you working to protect your story, knowing that it's gonna live beyond? And there will be curators and collectors and institutions that hold your work, that at some point someone might be fighting for your story. How, before it goes into the world, do you protect it?
Well, I have a good attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, Samitra Goodson. She makes me do everything according to the ways so I could preserve my history when I'm gone. She tells me, to copyright all your images, to, set up a trust. I mean, she tells me all of this stuff that I am doing now. So you have to have a good attorney. Also, I speak from a place of love because I preserve my history as a Black woman. I've had people come up to me that say, why don't you paint other nationalities? Because I don't know this. I am a Black woman. I grew up in the South. My narrative is Black joy. I don't know anything else. So I preserve my history by translating that to beautiful images. And I protect that work to remain the way it is in my upbringing, because I grew up with a wonderful family, wonderful people in my life, and I preserve that history in my work. And I will not deter. You know, if somebody wants me to paint something different than I'm doing, I tell them no. Because I said, that's not what I am trying to express in my work. I'm expressing family, community, Black joy. I will not do anything else.
And I have two more questions, and then we're going to give it to the audience. For each of you, this question belongs to each of you. How do we avoid, as we hold our own powers, how do we avoid hoarding it to ourselves? How do we avoid hoarding it? Not giving it to, hoarding. Whoa, what y'all think I say?
The thing that's been helping me is recognizing, and we talked about this, that the vision is not yours. It's not only yours. It's if you get a good idea and you feel like you have to execute it, you feel pushed to do that, remembering that you're a vessel. It has to come through you, right? It's not only about you, it belongs to everyone. More or less, right? It doesn't belong to everyone, but it's to be shared, because otherwise, why do you have it? It's not meant to be possessed. We see what happens when power is possessed by certain people, hoarded by certain people, and it's gotten us in the situation that we're in right now. So we just have to always keep a different perspective about it.
Anyone else?
I have a problem with not hoarding my work because it sells really quickly. And as soon as I do it, it's gone. And I want to hold my work back. I have been told to hold my work back, but I have not. I have some, but I don't have a lot because I just give it, I don't give it away, but I sell it. I sell it. I mean, as soon as I do work, my gallerist calling me, says, have you finished? You say, we have a collector that wants it. And I mean, that doesn't happen for everybody, but it's happening for me right now. So I have to do pieces and not tell my gallery about it, to be honest, because it sells. Yeah. So I don't have a problem with hoarding.
Dr. Joy.
I don't call it hoarding. No, I've been collecting over 50 years. I mean, let's get real. So I have a large collection, and not everything is hung at once. I just went to someone's home and every square inch, I thought I hung everything. I'm like, oh, okay. It was a whole thing. So yes, I have work in storage that I then rotate things out pretty frequently. If something comes in and something comes out, then I kind of move it around. And I also loan work to different institutions when they ask for different shows. I have donated to other museums items from the collection that I think works in their collection and makes sense. Yeah. I have, like I said, I have children, and one is a curator. So I definitely, my collection, my legacy will not be, it'll be good. Yeah. They'll make sure it gets up. But again, I think for me, as I am, whatever it is, holding on to the work right now. Yeah. And it is in my possession right now. I feel the responsibility, which is why you see my work. I share it on, podcasts or video things so that people can see it in a home and they get to see the work. That's how I share it, so that I don't feel like I'm hoarding. I think that, again, I hope that when younger people and other people who want to collect, once they see it in a home, just like I saw it when I was 17, to be able to see that this is how you can live, this is how you're supposed to live, this is how we're supposed to live. Our homes are supposed to be places of joy and support and comfort. And when people see, oh, you know what, you can hang it there, you can do it this, and they see it and they say, I can do that. If it's posters, if it's prints, if it's sculptures, it's like you get it. And so so I don't feel like I'm hoarding.
You're definitely not. You're not. You're definitely not hoarding your work. I mean, you're here with us. You're not hoarding information. You've just given it. I hope y'all, my girl right here is taking notes. And there's Glory notes out there. You can get your Glory notes at the merch booth. But I want to thank y'all actually for not hoarding your information and for sharing it. And I think we talked about power, how to hold it, how not to lose it, not let it get lost. We can do this for a very long time, but we gotta wrap it up. So I thank y'all for being here from the bottom of my heart. I really do. Y'all travel for this across town for some. But you're at the fair. She's at the fair right now. She's activating at the fair and she's here in the middle of her day. You're at the fair right now. And in the middle of your day, you made a choice and decided to be here. And you live in Los Angeles and you leaving tomorrow.
Yes, I am.
So, I mean, I give you guys so much thanks. And we're gonna open it up to the audience. You can actually take my mic here. If anyone has any questions, we have about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Questions from the audience? Right here.
Make sure. I have a question for the doctor. I want to know, as a collector who's been collecting for over 50 years, how did you acquire knowledge as to how to preserve the works that you have in your collection, and how important is that?
It is important. Most of the work, be it paintings or works on paper, a little trial and error. I think living in Los Angeles and having a home that has a lot of light, I learned probably that there's a couple pieces got kind of faded because I didn't have the right kind of covering on the windows. So with a little trial and error in the early days, thank God it was the early days, so that all the windows have a protective covering on them. If they are not, I don't do drapes. It's just the hell thing. So I like to see the light. I like to see the trees. So yes, all of them you have to figure out. You talk to different people and say, what kind of UV protected coating do you have to do? As far as sculptures are concerned, I make sure that I try to keep them as clean as possible and dust free and this and that. There's others that I will have an acrylic box covering for them especially when I have a lot of people over, because I don't want people to touch different things. So they can see the work, but they can't touch. And because they're books, there's, anyways, we can't have it. So yes. Yeah. So you learn it, and part of the thing is talking to the artist as well. Yeah. Okay, how did you see this being protected for long term? Sometimes artists don't think about, they'll do some assemblage and there's a paper cup or something on the thing. You say, what is this going to last? What's happening? So what are we doing about this? So I said, it's as an artist, you then have to think about what materials you're using and being able to give that information to your gallerist and or the collector as you get to know them so they can protect your work. So.
Questions from the audience? Coming.
Thank you. First off, all y'all look really beautiful. Say that. My question is also for Dr. Simmons. I wrote it down. What helps you recognize which emerging artists are worth investing in early?
I have been doing this for such a long time. I No. You can see someone who has talent, and you can see who really does that. Again, I have never, when I started collecting, there wasn't a market, if you will. We were just talking about that. There wasn't a market for Black artists in the 70s and even 80s. I mean, because the market is, then you have to resell it. So who was buying it? There wasn't that. I mean, today there's a very different tenor as to what happens to art in a very different way. And so people are looking at it as investments, if you will. Again, for me, collecting artists when they're younger and presumed that their prices are lower, then the risk, if you will, is less than if you're throwing down on Rick Lowe that we saw today. When you're talking six figures, I mean, then you better be real clear as to what you're doing and how you're doing it, what you think is going to happen to this piece. So, but when you're not making that kind of investment, you just buy for the pure joy of buying the work and supporting an artist and giving them encouragement. You know, that's the part that people really don't understand or appreciate, is that when you buy an artist young, and that's the kind of support or nudge or encouragement that they need to, like, okay, maybe I'm onto something, and somebody else sees it. And so then they'll have the thing to keep going. So, you know, if you have the capacity to do that, and the work speaks to you, you don't invent it that you don't like, but you buy something that really speaks to you and it does bring you joy and comfort or whatever, then you do it. And whatever happens in 20 years, happens in 20 years. You know, like I said, Michelin, that's 2005. Nobody knew this sister that was in New York. But I saw her work and I said, I got to figure this out. And so once that piece came to Los Angeles, it's like, it's mine. And now it's been exhibited all over the world. I shipped, and it's like in the books and the thing. But I didn't know that back in 2005. You know, she wasn't in there. I mean, so you just buy for the pure joy of it. I mean, you know, yes, you can wait and get the big boys. You know, there's people who have that kind of capacity. I do not, as a retired physician. So I have to look at, you know, what I like. And if it does whatever it does, that's fabulous. If it doesn't, you know what? I've enjoyed the piece. And that's what I live with.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Any more questions? Right here.
Thank you so much to the panel. This was really exciting, and I can see that there's a lot of warmth and knowledge throughout the panelists, and I really enjoy that. My question is for everyone on stage. How or what are some ways that you've developed your eye or your vision so that way 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you're in positions of influence, and especially in marginalized markets and spaces, you're able to be that person of influence?
Well, for me, it's just, honestly, it's about, like Amarie said, I mean, we were just talking about this before this, it's just understanding and receiving the message and the gift and the idea that comes to you, because ideas travel. I believe ideas travel. And I believe you have to be careful about the ideas that you go forward for, but you also have to have some type of urgency and then some type of plan to get to execution. You said something earlier that I really resonate with, and I think about it all the time. You have to have intention, but then you have to have direction on that intention. Because intention, I could intend to go to San Antonio. But if I put in my GPS that we're going to California, we're going to end up in California. And my intention, my direction didn't match my intention. And I think that's really, really important when you said that earlier. You also have to have people around you that encourage you, and people around you that are willing to talk you out of not doing it. They have to talk you into it over and over again. I think that's important. Thank you to my community because I almost quit this. And and I say that because there are hurdles, right? And you have to be able to get over those hurdles. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be in life. But it's going to take the tenacity, like I just told Nicole, the audacity. I don't think that's a bad word. I think it's a great word. And I think you actually have to have it. So that's my answer. Anyone? I'm going to hand you.
I want to add, in terms of developing your eye, ask yourself why you like things. Like if you go to the fair, if you walk into a museum or you walk into a gallery and something speaks to you, begin to ask the questions why. You start to train your eye when you investigate why you like what you like. And if you see people that like certain things, maybe ask why you don't like what they like. Go try and see as many things as you can. Show up and build relationships with people. Ask questions of artists. Take them to coffee. Go to lunch. Folks who look at the credit lines on the labels in museums to see who owns what. There might be more information. Do some follow-up research. I'm on Google all day and night. Come to the reading room. We got books, okay? We can sit and have a conversation. Go on the website. If there's something that you want me to pull, I'll pull it and I'll walk you through it. Whatever you like. Ask questions.
But you really have to get out there and see the work. I think that's how you develop your eye, and now there's such a larger thing about Black people going to to different shows and people are doing different pop-ups. There's all kinds of opportunities to get out there and see art in real life. Yes, seeing things on the gram is one thing, and I remember seeing your work early on, but again, you have to see it in real life, and I think that's how you really develop your eye to understand what you like, what you don't like, what speaks to you, and you start going down that path. And you talk about looking at the credit lines and who owns the work. I remember, I told this to Dr. Driscoll when he was alive. He had a show called 2 Centuries of Black American Art. Okay, and you got the book, I got my book. Okay, so it was a thing. I was in my 20s, and it was at LACMA, the LA County Museum of Art, and none of the names of the people who own the work. This is Bearden, this is everybody, and none of the names sounded Black who owned the work, and that was like, oh no, this is what I'm gonna do, and so it has been my thing. Also, to get people to understand that not only do Black people make art, but Black people collect art, that Black people support artists, that Black people support the telling of our culture in broader spaces, and that we value this work that people do, be it writing, be it painting, be it all of that, that we as Black people support and love, and will make sure that this legacy lives on forever.
And piggybacking off of what you said, as an artist, I have talked to my gallery and I said, I want my work to be sold to a certain amount of Black people a year. And I tell them that. And I said, I just want that as a Black female. So my work will be collected and taken to the Black culture instead of, other cultures. So I want to preserve my history that way as well.
And that's the power that you have as an artist. Always, always, always. I mean, I think even big guys, Kerry James Marshall breaks off a piece that goes to the gallery that supported him in the very beginning, because he realizes that, yes, he may be with Hauser, he's with what other big guys? Okay, whatever. But he always breaks off of that space that took care of him when nobody was paying attention to him. And so you have that power as an artist, and you use that power to be able to say, I want to be sure that Black collectors can have access to this work. And however deal you have to cut that we can make this happen, the galleries may have to take a little off so that you keep yours, but it can be accessible to collectors. Because again, when you start getting to these other spaces, the work may be very much more expensive. But if you are making the intention with the gallery, because they're working for you, let's get that together, that you then tell them what it is that you want and where you want your work to go.
We have time for one more question.
Oh, I have the mic here.
Is there someone back there? Josie, and then we'll take this last question.
So I have a question for Amarie. You're one of my favorite art writers, and I want to know who's on your list.
That's easy. Jessica Lynn, Camille Bacon, Taylor Aldridge, who's also a curator. Jessica and Taylor started a publication 10 years ago called Arts That Black. That was one of the first places that I was published. The whole premise of the publication was to share criticism of contemporary art by Black writers, period. That was it. Sasha Bonet, who is a writer who writes also about art, writes beautifully, and has really cracked my mind open. Her first memoir is coming out on Tuesday, or it came out, and we're celebrating it here in Houston on Tuesday. She's someone who is incredibly passionate and thoughtful, Houston born and raised. Who else? Curators are also incredible writers. Valerie Cassell Oliver is my North Star. She's the person who I walk behind, whose story I hope to tell, whose legacy I hope to preserve. A Southerner through and through. All Black women. I didn't intend for that, but yes, all Black women and all Southerners. Thank you, Josie.
I want to say thank you for this entire room full of Black folks. I live in the Bay. I'm from New Orleans, but I've been in the Bay for 15 years, and I miss this. So I came here just for this. So thank y'all. But Miss Evita, I wanted to ask you, as an artist myself, there are opportunities that are coming up, which is great, but now I'm at the point where I need to learn how to say no, and I'm struggling. So I'm not loading all the things onto the plate, and now I need to have more discernment about what opportunities will work for me in my career. How did you navigate that in your early career?
Samitra Goodson.
So I need a Samitra.
I run everything by her. And plus I have great team. I have a great community around me. Henry Minor. I call him my son. I don't have any children, but we've been friends for 13 years, 12, 13 years. I have a good team and I run things by my gallery. But in my early years, Samitra's been with me for 7 years. And some things you said, you're not going to do that. No, I've turned down a lot of things because it wasn't good for me. And you have to have balance, because you may see all the opportunity and you want to do it, but you have to have balance. You have to have time for you. So I turned down a lot. I turned down a show in Europe this year. Yeah, because I had another major opportunity to come about. I had a solo show at the Armory. And so I had to decide which one was best. So I turned down the show in Europe because I felt that the Armory was better. And it was better. And the show in Europe is next year. So so you have to decide, you have to make a decision what's best for you. And it might hurt, but it will pay off in the long run.
I want to thank all of y'all for being here. And I just want everyone to kind of leave with understanding that glory is a process. We are all in process. We are all in progress. And we just got to keep going towards the glory. And when we get to the glory, wherever that is for us, we have to give it back. We got to continue to give it back. And I just want to thank you guys again. Thank y'all. Can we hug? I would like to hug. I just have to thank you guys for watching. And for those of you who were there, if you were in the room, if you traveled, if you drove from Los Angeles, you know who I'm talking to. Came from Atlanta, from Washington, D.C., or anywhere across the country, I just want you to know that I will never forget that. You showed up with heart. You built community, and you reminded all of us that glory is something we practice together. If this conversation moved you, make sure you're subscribed to Dear Glory here on YouTube. And share this video with someone who needs to hear exactly what was talked about in this conversation. And before you go, make sure you grab your Glory Notes notebook and your mug from my website. They're still 50% off right now, just $10 for each of them. So you can keep reflecting, writing, and preparing for what's next in your journey. Because the process does not end here. We're already building GloryLand 2026. So mark your calendars, start planning your trip to Houston, and stay close to Dear Glory. Until next time, I'm Moriah, Alise, and I'm reminding you that glory is a process, not a performance. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.